belly dance has enchanted, entertained, and educated the world since the dawn of time. Today, women are enjoying its wonderful benefits for health and beauty. Belly dance is the world's oldest surviving dance art. Millions of people have practiced it for enjoyment and for its safe, effective exercise. Unlike some other dance or exercise forms that are unnatural or harsh, belly dance relies on natural movement to gently and thoroughly exercise every part of the body. It stresses spontaneity, allowing each individual to dance freely and express their own unique personality and creativity. More than any other dance form, belly dance allows you to be you. And on top of all this, it brings out the beauty of everyone who practices it. In learning how to belly dance, it is helpful to understand something of its history. Belly dance is thought to be over 20,000 years old and has been practiced by many different races and cultures around the world. Because of its great antiquity, precise origins are still not known. The dance of today incorporates rolling, undulating, and vibrating movements that are natural to the body. It's logical to speculate that the earliest human beings moved in this manner as they expressed their innermost emotions and oneness with nature. Anthropologists know that the dance was practiced in the earliest cultures of India, Africa, the Near and Mid-East, and surrounding areas. The religions of all these early civilizations worship some form of Mother Goddess. These people had great regard for Mother Nature and all of her creations. In their celebrations of Mother Earth, they included a great deal of music, song, and dance. The belly dance of today is a direct descendant of these dances. It still reflects the respect that people once had for the body as a creation of nature and a temple of the soul. Many of the very ancient civilizations were quite sophisticated. In fact, in our time of computers and space-age technology, scientists are just now beginning to understand how advanced these people really were. They were probably the first to organize the dance into a complete and holistic art form. Civilizations rise and fall, but truth and beauty never die. As the Golden Age civilizations faded, cultures and races continued to migrate and mix around the globe. Some continued practicing the dance as religious celebration. Others used it as healing technique, childbirth preparation, physical education, courtship ritual, and communal entertainment. And of course, many belly danced just for the sheer joy of it. With the onset of the Dark Ages, the higher understandings and meanings of the dance were lost in many parts of the world. In Europe, the dance was all but forgotten. It survived for the most part in the Near and Mid-East, India, and in altered form in parts of Africa and Polynesia. The West had a major reawakening to the dance in the 19th century. At that time, Orientalist painters and writers beguiled Europe with their rich and exotic paintings and stories of the dancing girls of the East. But it wasn't until 1893 that the general American public had its first real introduction to the dance. It was the Middle Eastern dancers and the legend of Little Egypt that was the hit of the Chicago World's Fair. From that time on, belly dancers of all degrees of authenticity and talent have graced American stages. The names of Ruth St. Denis and Isadora Duncan stand out as women who revolutionized American dance with their inspirations from the East.
Hi, my name is Atia. The American belly dancers of today are people of all ages, sizes, backgrounds, and professions. So if you're one of the many looking for the perfect dance exercise and creative outlet, let's belly dance.
It's important to start any dance or exercise session by warming up. One of the functions of a warm-up is to increase your circulation, bringing blood to every part of the body. The warm-up also serves as a time to separate your mind and emotions from the stresses of your everyday life. To start your warm-ups, you should spend at least 3 to 5 minutes doing non-strenuous movements. You can gently jog in place, or better yet, you could do freestyle movement to music. A freestyle warm-up should be mindless and fun. Do whatever movements you wish as long as they get your blood circulating and are not too strenuous.
Now we're ready for the second part of our warm-ups, gentle but thorough stretches. These stretches are designed to warm up and condition the major muscles and joints of your body. In the overhead stretch, raise the arms straight over the head, rise up on the toes, and stretch slowly and deeply from side to side. With this and all warm-up techniques, stretch to the edge of your limitations, but never beyond. Be sensitive and aware to what your body is telling you. In the upper torso twist, keep your feet and lower torso planted firmly to the ground. Relax the upper torso and swing the arms gently from side to side. Never twist too abruptly or sharply. The forward body roll is excellent for warming up and relaxing. Relax the spine and roll the head slowly to the floor, vertebrae by vertebrae. As you continue rolling, bend the knees, touch the floor with your hands, and relax for a second or so. Now reverse the process, rolling up vertebrae by vertebrae. As you straighten your knees, try to keep your hands on the ground as long as you can without straining. Return to your starting position. Many of us accumulate a great deal of tension in the neck and shoulder area. Head and shoulder rolls are great for relieving this. In the head roll, relax the neck area and roll the head gently in a full circle. Keep the movement slow and reverse the direction from time to time. For the shoulder roll, rotate the shoulders gently but thoroughly. Change the direction. If at any time during your workout you feel excess tension building up in your body, take a moment to shake it out. Loose hip circles are done by tracing a large, well-rounded circle with the hips. Keep the lower torso relaxed. It doesn't matter if your legs are bent or straight. Change direction from time to time. Do these warm-up exercises, or others you might like, for about 5 to 10 minutes, or until you feel relaxed and energized. Quick, snappy hip movements are used extensively in belly dance. They are usually used to accent rhythm or are performed to lively tempos. These movements are great exercise for the leg, pelvic, hip, and stomach areas. There are 3 basic staccato hip movements, and they have many variations. In belly dance, almost all our basic hip moves are done in basic stance. Basic stance is a logical and comfortable position. The feet are slightly apart, approximately shoulder width. Weight should be evenly distributed between both feet. Knees are slightly bent and flexible. Hips and pelvis are held level and straight. Stomach is held comfortably in. The rib cage is held slightly up and vertically aligned to the hips. The shoulders are slightly back and down, and the head is vertically aligned to the torso. In basic stance and most belly dance movements, the arms can be held in almost any position that is graceful and controlled. You should practice this stance until you feel comfortable with your balance. Once you feel comfortable with basic stance, you're ready to do our first staccato hip move, the hip twist. For all our hip moves,
we first learn to perfect the movement by isolating it. For the hip twist, all movement is from the waist down. Twist or swivel your hips forward and back without moving the upper torso. Keep the hips level and alternate from side to side. There's a little snap in the forward motion, but don't overdo it at first. Make sure the legs and knees are kept relaxed and flexible. Although all staccato hip movements originate in the hips, it causes a secondary reaction in the legs. If the legs and knees are not allowed to move, it inhibits the hip action. Many variations can be done with all our staccato hip moves. You can vary the number of times you work each hip. You can vary the speed from fast to slow. You can change the intensity from hard to soft. You can change your level up or down. Once you feel comfortable with the hip twist, you can try dancing it to music. We'll do a short improvisation using the hip twist and variations. The second basic staccato hip movement that we'll learn is the hip bump. For the hip bump, you bump or thrust your hip up and straight out to the side. It's as though you are bumping a door shut with your hip. Put a little snap into it, and remember to keep the legs and knees relaxed and flexible. For now, try to keep the feet flat on the ground. Make your hips do the work. As with the hip twist, you can create a nice little dance just with hip bump variations alone. The third staccato hip movement is the up and down hips. In a comfortable basic stance, keep the legs very flexible and move your hips straight upwards and then down. Do not move the hips out to the side or forward and back. Try to move in a vertical line. Remember to keep the heels to the floor and keep the upper torso from moving. The more you relax for this or other belly dance movements, the faster you'll learn. Don't try too hard.
Now that you've seen the basic staccato hip moves, Shanti, Shanda, and I will improvise a little dance using all three, plus variations.
Hip shimmies are among the most mesmerizing and dramatic of all belly dance moves. They are usually performed to the faster tempos, but can also be used subtly to slower music. They are great aerobic exercise and effectively work the leg, pelvic, hip, and stomach areas.
In belly dance, there are many types of shimmies and vibrations. The most common are the hip shimmies. There are two basic types of hip shimmies, and although they look virtually alike, you'll find that one is easier than the other. We'll start with the up and down.
Stand in basic stance and move your hips up and down as you learned in the up and down hip movement. To get the shimmy going, make the move very small and fast. chest. Remember to keep the legs and knees very relaxed and flexible. Try to keep the feet flat on the ground and try to isolate. No conscious movement in the upper torso. Some people find the forward and back shimmy easier to do. Standing in basic stance, twist the hips forward and back as you learned in the hip twist movement. Remember that to get the movement going fast, you must make it very small and relaxed. Virtually any movement you can do standing in place, you can also do walking. It's the dancer's choice as to when to walk or stand in place with a movement. One of the most popular walking steps is the basic walk. The sequence of a basic walk is step, slide, hip. You step forward with either foot, slide the other foot parallel to it, and then use one of the three basic staccato hip movements. The dancers are doing the basic walk with the hip bump. Once again, the sequence is step, slide, hip. The leg that you slide carries the hip that you bump. Another traveling step that is used extensively in the dance is the common walk. We take our everyday common walking step and add belly dance movement to it. For the staccato hip common walk, the sequence is step and move your hip as you put your weight down in that foot. The foot that you step with carries the hip that you move. So it's step, hip, step, hip, step, hip, etc. With a little practice, you'll be able to make one smooth, continuous movement from one side of the body to the other. Although the hip twist is used most commonly with this walk, you may also use the hip bump or up and down hips. In addition to the walking steps we just learned, you can use occasional freestyle walking steps. They are usually interspersed in between the more structured steps. Keep them subtle and don't overdo them. Belly dancers also use a lot of spins, turns, and pivots. There are many types of pivots in belly dance, but we'll do the most common. To do a hip bump pivot, we'll stand in pivoting stance. That is, stand with the left foot flat and the right foot on the ball of the foot. The weight is in your left leg. In this version, keep the upper torso upright and pivot around the left leg as you bump the right hip. Keep the legs and knees flexible. A popular arm position with this move is keeping one arm up and the other out to the side, framing the movement.
We've learned the basic staccato hip moves, walking steps, and variations. When you dance to music, you may have your steps strictly choreographed, or you may improvise freely with them. Kayleen, Shanta, and I will demonstrate improvising with all these techniques. We will each interpret the music in our own personal way.
Taksim is a term that refers to music and movements that are slow and flowing. Taksim movements are not only excellent exercise, but are also very relaxing for mind, body, and spirit.
The first talk-scene movements that we'll be learning are the 3 basic rolling hip techniques. These movements exercise and massage the leg, pelvic, hip, and stomach areas. The first technique is the hip circle.
In the basic hip circle, we trace a large, controlled circle with our hips. This is one of the very few hip movements in belly dance where you can keep the legs straightened for the entire movement. However, you may also bend the knees if you wish. The important thing is to keep the upper torso fairly upright and controlled as you trace a well-rounded circle with the hips. In an advanced version of the hip circle, you can exaggerate the size of your circle and allow your upper torso to move in the opposite direction of your hips. Keep your upper torso controlled. Don't let it get sloppy. The next technique is the figure 8 hip roll. There are 2 basic figure 8s, and many variations can be done by blending elements of these 2. The first figure 8 we'll learn is the forward and back figure 8. For a forward and back figure 8, sometimes called a hip twisting figure 8, isolate your hips in a comfortable basic stance. Pretend that a large figure 8 is painted on the floor. As you stand in the middle of your imaginary figure 8, try tracing it with your hips. Twist your hip back, out, forward, and back to your starting point. Repeat on your other hip. Keep your hips level as you swing them back and forth from one side to the other. It's important to keep the legs very relaxed so that the hips have freedom of movement. Keep practicing until you are able to complete the whole movement fluidly. The other figure 8 is the up and down version. Some people find this one a little harder to do, but the exercise for the legs is really great. To do an up and down figure 8, pretend that you are facing a wall with a figure 8 painted on it. One loop of the figure 8 is to the right, the other is to the left. As you trace the 8, one hip will go down, out, up, and back to your starting point, and then the other hip will repeat the movement. The legs, knees, and feet will be pulled up and down with this one, so keep them flexible. Make sure you do not twist your hips in this version. In this, and all movements that incorporate circular motion, you may roll your hips in one direction, or you may reverse directions. The third rolling hip technique is called bicycle hips. Isolate your hips in the basic stance, and roll your hip back, up, forward, and down. Repeat on the other side. Keep the circular motion vertical and do not swing the hips out to the side. This movement causes the leg and foot to be pulled up and down, much the same way as when you ride a bicycle. Remember, however, to make the hips do most of the work, not the feet. All of our rolling hip movements can be varied by changes in speed, intensity, and level. Practice until the movements become smooth and flowing.
Nia, Kayleen, and I can now improvise variations and combinations of the rolling hip techniques we just learned.
belly rolls and abdominal moves are hypnotic, beautiful, and exotic. The exercise value for the stomach, spine, and diaphragm area is absolutely unsurpassed. The secret to belly rolls and many abdominal motions lies in isolating and controlling the diaphragm and rib cage.
To prepare us for abdominal moves, we will first learn a couple of ribcage isolation techniques.
We must first learn to isolate and control the diaphragm muscle. The diaphragm is a large, flat muscle located just under the ribs. It's capable of being very flexible and can be moved in many different directions. Because the abdominal muscles are located in direct relation to it, any movement of the diaphragm will also result in abdominal movement. So the secret of intricate belly moves lies in controlling and moving the diaphragm. In the arch and contract isolation technique and all our ribcage techniques, you may stand in any stance that is graceful and controlled. There is no movement from the hips down. Gently stretch or arch the ribcage and diaphragm up and out. Then relax or contract the ribcage and diaphragm down and back. As you arch, you stretch. As you contract, you relax. The contract portion of this move is relaxed. Do not force it. Make sure that your shoulders are also relaxed. Make your diaphragm do the work. In the ribcage slide, keep your shoulders relaxed and level, and slide your diaphragm and ribcage in a straight line from side to side. Keep your upper torso in good posture, that is, vertically aligned to the floor. Make sure that the movement is done in a straight line from side to side. Do not hunch, twist, or dip the shoulders. There are 3 basic ribcage circles that result in 3 different types of belly rolling motions. These movements exercise the midsection very thoroughly. In addition, they massage the spine and entire abdominal area, bringing wonderful health benefits. For a horizontal ribcage circle, pretend that you are standing in the middle of a large circle painted on the floor. Isolate the ribcage and trace the circle with the diaphragm and ribcage. Make sure the shoulders stay level as you trace your circle. With this and all movements, don't overdo it at first. A subtle circle looks just as nice as a dramatic one. As you make the diaphragm work, the abdominal area is affecting a horizontal or side-to-side belly rolling action. In a diagonal ribcage circle, pretend that you are facing a large, round clock. Trace the outline of the clock by moving the diaphragm and ribcage to the side, up, to the other side, and down. This results in a diagonal belly rolling action. As mentioned earlier, any rolling, circular movement can be done in a direction that is either clockwise or counterclockwise. It's not necessary to master both directions in your movements, but doing so will give you the most complete exercise value. The vertical ribcage circle is the most common and leads into undulations and the basic belly roll. Isolate the diaphragm and ribcage and roll in a circle by stretching forward, up, gently back, and down. As you go forward and up, you are stretching. As you roll down and back, you are relaxing. Keep the shoulders relaxed and make the diaphragm do the work. You may find that reversing the direction of the circle is easier to do. So try both directions to find the one that is most natural to you. Keep practicing until you can make the movement a smooth, continuous circle. Notice the vertical belly rolling action that is developing. The undulation probably has more health benefits than any other belly dance movement. It is done by performing the vertical ribcage circle in a very relaxed basic stance. For this move, you will not isolate your ribcage, but instead will allow the motion to flow all the way to the ground. As you roll in your vertical circle, allow your hips, pelvis, and legs to remain very relaxed. The lower part of the body will naturally react to the movement of the rib cage by rolling in its own circle. When the rib cage rolls forward, the pelvis rolls back. When the rib cage rolls up, the knees straighten. As the rib cage rolls back, the pelvis rolls forward. And when the rib cage rolls down, the knees bend. Don't think about all these details as you try the movement. Just concentrate on your vertical rib cage circle and allow the lower body to relax and react naturally. The basic belly roll is very similar to an undulation, but can be done in any stance that is graceful and controlled. To learn it, start with your undulation, but gradually tighten up the muscles in the lower torso so that you have very little movement there. Also, minimize the movement in the rib cage area. Eventually, you want to get the belly roll focused in the diaphragm and stomach area alone. As you roll your diaphragm in its vertical circle, keep your stomach relaxed so that it can be pulled in and up and then pushed out and down. This move takes practice and patience, but eventually you'll get it isolated and fluid.
Once you are familiar with all these techniques, you can do combinations and variations. These moves will give you the best and most enjoyable workout your tummy has ever had.
In belly dance, you may use your arms as a graceful frame for your other body movements, or you can create movement with the arms themselves. As mentioned earlier, you may hold your arms in almost any pose that is harmonious with your body type and the movement that you are doing. You may also do freestyle arm movements, creating graceful patterns around you.
There are 3 basic arm techniques that are wonderful exercise for the arms, upper torso, and spine. These arm movements will also make you more flexible for freestyle arm patterns.
The forward arm wave is done by tracing a half circle in front of the body with your arms. As one arm goes up, the other comes down. The trick is to keep the arms, elbows, and wrists very relaxed so that you can get a wave-like motion. The wrist flips downward as you bring the arm up, and then flips back as you bring the arm down. As with most of our movements, try not to think too hard about what you are doing, but instead relax and feel the flowing motion developing. Hindu arms is the same movement, but the half circle is traced to the side of the body. Make sure to keep the upper torso in good posture, with the rib cage held nicely up. The arm ripple is much harder than it looks, but the exercise value and finished look is worth the effort. Rotate the shoulder in a small circle. Allow the circle to spiral out through the elbows and wrist. When one shoulder is rolling forward, the other shoulder is rolling back. Practice until you get a smooth, flowing action from one arm to the other. Remember to keep the elbows and wrists relaxed to allow the energy to flow all the way out through the arms. The head slide is another toxine movement. It's great exercise for the neck and chin. It's easier to do the head slide if your arms are in the temple pose. Arms are held over the head with the palms together. Relaxing the neck area, try sliding the head in a straight line from side to side. Do not twist or tilt the head.
We've learned beautiful Taksim moves for hips, torso, arms, and head. Now we'd like to show you what you can achieve with them. All it takes is a little practice and persistence.
The veil has long been a symbol of femininity and mystery. In the dance, it can be used as a delicate and lovely extension of your response to melody.
The veil is an optional part of belly dance, but few can resist at least trying it. Besides, it's a wonderful and creative way to exercise arms, shoulders, and upper torso. For veil dancing, you'll need approximately 3 yards of any fabric that moves well. Chiffons, lightweight knits, and silks are some favorites. It can be in the shape of a rectangle or half circle. You will also need music that has a slow or moderate tempo. To dance with the veil, you can use it as a frame for your body movements, or you can highlight the flow of the fabric to melody. To flow the fabric, you can hold it in many different ways. Experiment with your fabric because each type has its own unique qualities of movement and feel. A veil spin is done by rotating the fabric around your body. You may stand still or turn with the veil. You can butterfly the veil by holding it out to the sides and spinning. As you turn, move your arms slowly up and down. You may hold the veil in back of the body or in front. There are many variations and creative possibilities with your veil work. By being sensitive to your fabric and to the music, you can create a magical and mystical mood. Very often, a dancer will start her dance with the veil draped over her costume. The undraping process allows her to create even more innovative moves with fabric. Here are some of our favorite veil drapes. We hope that they inspire you to try a few, or even to invent some of your own.
While they are dancing, belly dancers often play finger cymbals, sometimes called zills. Finger cymbals are used to embellish and enhance the rhythms of the livelier tempos of music. Although they are challenging to learn to dance with at first, the benefits are great. Playing the cymbal will improve the flexibility in your hands and fingers. Practicing them also develops your sense of rhythm, coordination, and balance between mind and body. When you play the music, you improvise. There are almost limitless variations of patterns that can be played to any rhythm. We'll show you the basics and demonstrate some variations.
Finger cymbals are discs made of brass and are worn on the middle finger and thumb of each hand. The elastic fits on or near the first joint. The simplest of all cymbal patterns is the alternating pattern. You simply alternate hitting the cymbal from one hand to the other. Try to get the feel of getting a nice ringing sound from your cymbals and keep your hands and fingers relaxed. The Turkish pattern is another basic and is played with a sequence that is right, left, pause. If you prefer, you can reverse the sequence and go left, right, left, pause. It sounds the same. The gallop pattern sounds virtually the same as the Turkish, but some people find it easier. The sequence is right, left, pause. One advantage to the gallop is that it can be played very fast. The key to playing the cymbals to music is to embellish the rhythm in any manner that sounds harmonious to your ear. If you're off beat, you'll hear it. In the beginning, practice playing your patterns to music as you're sitting down. Once you feel comfortable playing the cymbals sitting down, you can try coordinating them to your dancing. It can be slow and frustrating at first, but if you relax and keep practicing, it will come together.
It's not necessary to wear anything special if you are practicing belly dance for health or personal enjoyment, but the costuming can add a very magical quality to your dance. The dancer's belt and accessories are often made of coins, jewels, or tassels. You may also have noticed that intricate beadwork is an important part of many costumes. Kayleen designed and constructed this beautiful ensemble in green and silver bugle beads. Ethnic folkloric clothing is a wonderful source of inspiration for belly dance costumes. Keisha is wearing a looser yet equally glamorous style of ethnic dress. Shanda's multi-layered skirt is a unique design that moves beautifully. Nina's animal print costume is really wild and fun. If you love all-out flash, Shanti's sequin skirt is the ultimate.
We hope you've enjoyed our introduction to magical motion as much as we've enjoyed sharing it with you. We'd like to say goodbye for now with the type of belly dance that's been traditional for thousands of years. The gathering of friends to share good times and goodwill. Let's join the fun.